Explosions rock Caracas as Venezuela wakes to fear and uncertainty. In the early hours of Saturday morning, the capital city of Venezuela, Caracas, was jolted awake by a series of powerful explosions that shattered the stillness of the night. What began as a single loud blast quickly escalated into multiple detonations, echoing across the city and sending waves of fear through residential neighborhoods. Many residents were asleep when the first explosion struck shortly before 2 o'clock in the morning. Windows rattled violently, car alarms blared, and the ground trembled in several areas. Some people initially believed an earthquake had occurred, while others feared an attack as additional explosions followed in rapid succession. Panic spread as the sounds grew louder and closer, leaving thousands unsure what was happening or where the danger was coming from. As the explosions continued, large sections of Caracas were suddenly plunged into darkness. Power outages affected multiple neighborhoods, cutting off streetlights, homes, and communication systems. The blackout intensified the sense of chaos, with residents stepping outside into pitch-black streets lit only by emergency lights, phone screens, and flashes from distant fires. Eyewitnesses reported seeing thick plumes of smoke rising into the night sky, particularly near strategic locations around the city. In some areas, people claimed to hear aircraft flying unusually low overhead, adding to the alarm and confusion. The roar of engines mixed with the sound of explosions created a tense and surreal atmosphere that many described as something out of a war zone. By the time the explosion subsided, at least 7 major blasts had been reported across Caracas and surrounding districts. Emergency services struggled to respond quickly due to power failures and damaged infrastructure. Sirens echoed through the streets as authorities attempted to assess the situation and secure affected areas. Soon after the incidents, Venezuela's leadership addressed the nation. The president declared a state of emergency, stating that the country was facing a serious threat and that national defense forces had been placed on high alert. He described the explosions as deliberate acts aimed at destabilizing the country and emphasized the need for unity and vigilance among the population. Military units were reportedly mobilized, and security checkpoints were established in various parts of the capital. Roads near key facilities were closed, and citizens were urged to remain calm and stay indoors while investigations were underway. Despite these reassurances, fear lingered as many residents worried that further explosions or attacks could follow. Across Caracas, families gathered together in their homes, sharing information and rumors through word of mouth and social media. Videos recorded by residents showed glowing fires in the distance and clouds of smoke drifting above the city skyline. These images spread rapidly, fueling anxiety both within Venezuela and abroad. For many Venezuelans, the emotional impact of the explosions was profound. Caracas is a city that has endured years of economic hardship, political tension, and social challenges. The sudden eruption of violence in the middle of the night added another layer of trauma to a population already living under strain. Parents comforted frightened children, while elderly residents recalled past periods of unrest and instability. As morning approached, the full scale of the damage remained unclear. Authorities had not yet released detailed information about casualties, injuries, or the extent of destruction to buildings and infrastructure. Hospitals were placed on alert, and emergency teams continued to survey affected areas once daylight allowed for safer access. International reactions began to emerge as news of the explosion spread. Leaders in neighboring countries expressed concern over the situation, calling for restraint and clarity. Observers warned that the events could have serious consequences for regional stability, especially given long-standing tensions between Venezuela and foreign governments. The broader context surrounding the explosions is complex. Venezuela has faced prolonged political disputes, economic sanctions, and diplomatic isolation in recent years. These pressures have contributed to an atmosphere of uncertainty, where sudden acts of violence carried potential to escalate rapidly and unpredictably. By mid-morning, Caracas remained on edge. While the explosions had stopped, the silence that followed was heavy with unanswered questions. Residents waited anxiously for official updates, hoping for explanations and assurances that the worst was over. Streets were quieter than usual, businesses remained closed, and public transportation was limited in some areas. Analysts suggested that the events of this morning could mark a critical turning point for Venezuela. Whether the explosions were part of a larger operation or an isolated incident, their impact was undeniable. They exposed vulnerabilities, intensified fear, and reminded the world of the fragile balance that defines the country's current situation. For now, the people of Caracas are left to cope with uncertainty. As investigations continue and authorities work to restore power and security, the city holds its breath. The echoes of the explosions may have faded, but their consequences are only beginning to unfold.